Hey folks, back again just to kind of keep going where we left off. I'm gonna just sort of give you videos in short chunks so I don't have to have you endure like this 10-minute video and if you want to go back and listen to it. So I'll just kind of chunk them to like 3 or 4 minutes and then you can watch them as they work in your own class, or if you need to watch them again and pause them to follow through some steps, it might be a bit nicer if they're a bit shorter. So I was just explaining expert and how all of a sudden when you get to expert, things appear on your screen. All of these bars appear on your screen, which are sort of some of the slight adjustments and some of the creative filters. And then you also have all of the controls on the left that were not available in some of the other settings. Like I said, Photoshop's a huge program and we will go through these as we get to them. And my hope is by the end of the semester you'll be able to know pretty much a decent understanding about Photoshop. Don't expect to know it all because like I said, it can take absolutely years. But what I wanted to do today is I wanted to just talk, we spent some great time at school this summer sharing workflows, so like what the initial steps are with any photograph before you get into things that are super artistic or super funky. We just want to look at basic functions that just enhance the quality of your image quite a bit. So no matter where you want to spend most of your time, I generally start in guided just for a few things that I like to do. And the first thing I like to do is crop the photo. So if you're gonna do your crop, I find that that is the best time to do it is right at the start. You can go back and crop later, but we always generally start there. So the cropping tool, just remember when you're cropping the stuff that we talked about for composition. You wanna look at filling your frame, you maybe wanna do a rule of thirds. Maybe you're looking for a symmetrical image that the rule of thirds doesn't really apply on. But sort of set it up however you would like it. I'm going to crop it in close this time for a really sort of tight fill the frame shot. And there's a couple steps. So after you've sort of selected where you want to be on your frame, click the arrow button. You have some choices here too. You can decide if you want to have your crop in a certain amount of inches, but I always just do no restriction and crop that way. It doesn't affect the quality of your image at all. It's just how you want to do it. You could have an overlay, so you could ask for it to give you the rule of thirds, and it'll display a grid or just a general grid or the golden ratio, but I generally go in overlay because I can kind of sort of see where I'm going on my own. Click done. Then, I clicked on something I shouldn't have. Let's just cancel that. Photoshop's definitely a big program and it takes some time to do any adjustments. So after I crop, cropping's generally the first step. The next thing I do on every single photo is work on your levels. And we'll talk a bit about layers later and what you can actually do with layers, but we're gonna create a levels adjustment. And basically what it does when you're creating a levels adjustment is it creates a layer for you in which that adjustment happens. And we'll talk about merging layers too. So don't adjust anything on here for now, just click OK, levels 1. When you get the level screen, this looks like this, and it doesn't actually look that exciting, but you want to drag it over so you can see the image, and I want to teach you a trick. If you see these buttons here, the trick that photographers use, when you get into Photoshop, you'll find that like they just use keystrokes, they have all of these shortcuts, and I'm also just scraping the surface of that myself. You want to press on the Alt key. You want to actually hold the Alt key down, and then you want to hold and drag this over. And you want to drag it over just till you see some spots appear. If I press the Alt key again, you can see the difference, you can see it just starting. And when they start to appear, that means that you're starting to neutralize that image so that your shadows are not super dark and your whites aren't overexposed. I do this on both sides. I click, if you're trying to do it on the left-hand side, you want to hold it down until you see black dots appear. If I go out here, there's way too much and I know I'm going to alter the photo, but you want it just so the dots start to appear. On the other side, do the exact same thing. You want to hold down the Alt key. This will not work if you're just sliding it. You have to hold down the Alt key, and you want to then slide it till the light spots appear. Because this photo has some light in it already, it's not really going to recognize it because there's a lot of light. You can also, if you're just looking at it and for an artistic sort of interpretation, you can slide this left or right too. So if I slide it left, it's gonna crank up my exposure and it's gonna make my photo a lot lighter and a lot softer. If I crank it all the way to the right, it's gonna darken my image till the point where I lose almost all clarity. So play with the left and the right sliders here and here, hold down Alt and drag till they get just a little spotty. And on the others, you can just drag until it's physically what you want it to look like. And then press OK. And then press Done. Now there's a critical step that you need to do after this before you can make any other changes. You need to go into Expert, because you can only actually play with layers in Expert in Adobe Photoshop Elements. And you want to go Layer, and you want to flatten image. The problem with Adobe Elements is that you don't sort of get a layers guide on the side to show you to go in and work with your layers. It's a really different way of kind of doing things. So I generally will just I'll flatten the image. And just remember that if there's ever something you wanted to do, or you've done something that you regret, you could just go back to edit. So if I want to, I could undo flatten image, or if I think everything that I've done is awful, I just click on revert and it takes me back to the very original image without changes. So maybe practice for a second with adjusting your levels and working it that way. If you'd like to repeat this so you can see it again, just press play and go again. I'm going to pause there for a second and go on to the next one.